Welcome back, everyone. It is me, Nina, with Glenda again. We from Simply Yoga. We are chatting a little bit more about her journey with yoga, through yoga, and into yoga. And what I thought we would pick up on here today, Glenda, is kind of like why yoga. One, we've figured out that that both of us are very much into helping people, caring for people, supporting them, and so kind of like, where does that come from, and what are the ways in which that you help and support people in your little community, in the way you operate?
Thank you, Nina. The important thing for me is to create a safe space for anybody, no matter who it is or where they are, that they feel that they could try yoga. For instance, it's not always accessible to everybody for whatever reason, location, maybe a little bit of family history that are reticent for the person to try yoga, or financial reasons, whatever it might be. It might also be they feel that they can't get down onto the floor. So I feel that I can provide that safe container for them to experience what yoga feels like, what yoga is about, and the mere fact that it is still a living tradition is quite profound, really. So even if they just try once, I give them my best. If they're just driving through town and they happen to be on holiday and they want to have a class, perfect. And I have a lot of pleasure when I've met somebody for the first time. It might also, as I said, be once, but they come back, whether it's a year later or 6 months later, they pop in for a class. And that is, for me, very fulfilling, to welcome the student and to actually see them leaving looking lighter and brighter, just better than when they walked in.
And it's such a rewarding feeling to have that as well, where there's no pressure on them, there's no pressure on you, and where they do arrive, maybe they don't really know what to expect or to experience, and then they leave with like that smile. I call it like the yoga smile at the end, where they just like, yes, it's like all their burdens have just for the time being put at ease, and they could just really get present. And it's a beautiful gift to be able to give someone.
It is. And I would be doing myself a disservice if I didn't actually make myself vulnerable for it, to receive, to be open. And sure, there's often somebody who leaves and you don't know why. And then you might hear along the line as, no, they wanted a flow class or something. And you learn as you move along. So when you have an approach from a potential student, you actually ask up front what they are expecting. Yes. So that you can see that you're a good match for each other.
That's such a good point. I'm just going to quickly harp on that, because I do find that there's so many teachers or students out there who will just take on anyone and everyone. And I don't actually think that that is necessarily the smartest way. I think it's very important to be very clear up front as to who you are, who kind of like the way you teach, the style you teach, and to understand if the potential student, if that is actually what they're looking for and needing. Because if they're not needing that, and they're, like you're saying, if they're wanting a flow class, or if they're wanting, expert precision or what, there's so many other teachers who are better equipped to do something like that. But for example, I've got my GP. I'll have someone who'll phone me. So my GP refers a lot of students towards our studio. And someone will phone me and they'll be like, yeah, like, I just need to learn how to breathe. And I'll be like, Dr. Anne sent you, because she knows that the style that we teach at the studio is not flow, is not vinyasa, is not ashtanga, that there is a Tuesday morning restorative class where they literally come, lie down, and not quite sleep, but they're going to be doing very gentle movement, and it's a chance to restore and to learn to breathe again. So when you know like the network out there who can refer the right people to you, it's extremely helpful. But also when someone phones, to put them in the right class or put them somewhere is so important, because it makes whoever comes to whatever class they're coming to the right thing. And then, you don't have someone yawning in the back because, it's not what they were looking for, or,
Correct.
yeah, or not
That's
being
true.
able to keep up, because and then feeling bad in themselves because they're not able to keep up with the sequence, because this is the first time they've ever done yoga, and now they're in some like intermediate vinyasa class, and they're
Yes.
so yeah.
And because the nature of the studio it's quite intimate, as I've mentioned to you earlier, that I take 6 students max. With myself in here, it'll be 7. 5 is my optimal, but I often end up with 6. And it's really important that I can pay attention to each student and their needs, because they change each time. They'll come back the next week for class and something's happened. Something's stressing them out, or they've just recovered from flu. So it's very important that I keep it small and quite personal. So again, also if they come in and I can see, oh, today is not going to be an energizing class, you have to really change on the fly. And if they want to just do Shavasana for the whole class, they can do Shavasana for the whole class. I mean, we know that a Shavasana day keeps the doctor away. So it's important that they also honor their needs, and I honor those needs too. And I think it takes quite an intuitive feel and an intuitive sense to it.
And it brings up the concept kind of like of Ayurveda as well, in a sense, because that's exactly what's happening. You're looking at the constitution, the mental disposition of the person who's coming into the class, or the people who are coming into the class, and assessing where they're at. If there is just so much kind of like vata disorientation, there's so much busyness, kind of like really knowing that the class needs to be there has to be a lot more grounding and slowness to it. Whereas if people are coming in and they're arriving and there's like lethargy
yes, lethargy
around, when there's just a heavy feeling. English has never been my first strong language in any way, shape, way, or form. So then you kind of like know, if that's the story, then okay, maybe a few more dynamic movements and a little bit of opening is what they needed. So I think having this deep understanding or appreciation of like Ayurvedic and the concept and those of the gunas of the different traits is so helpful in morphing or creating a yoga class that is ideal for those students that are coming. And you are able to do that better, I find, when you've got a smaller group, like you're saying. If you've got a small group of 5 or 6 core people who are coming, it's so easy to personalize it for what they're needing.
No, for sure. And the other thing I've learned along the way is not to label the class as a beginner's class or an intermediate class or an advanced class. I do run through the year a beginner's series on a weekend. So for a couple of weekends, we'll do a Saturday morning, we'll do an hour and a bit. But then they feel less intimidated than coming into a class of experienced yogis. But sometimes those experienced yogis will have a newly fledged beginner that has just graduated, so to speak, into it. So the class gets geared. And as I say, with the smaller class, I'm fortunate that the ones that have been here for a long time know how to up or down their practice. So I don't ignore them, but I invite them to go at it the way their body's craving for that particular practice. So it's beautiful to watch how the student develops and the little achievements that they get, So say, for instance, we repeat a posture for 3 weeks. By the end of the 3 weeks, whatever, it'd be 2 or 3 postures, they will see the progress in their own posture and the practice of that asana, which has also been, for me, a great reward. And how did I happen the studio? Again, I just happened into this studio. I was in a time when I lost a loved one and I sold our small holding and I needed to move back into town. So I asked the previous studio owner who I used to teach for here. I used to teach her beginners classes, and then I started teaching all her evening classes. And she said, "Oh, by my place." So I said, "What do you mean?" She says, "No, we're relocating again." So I ended up with the studio. I wasn't looking to have a studio of my own or to teach full time. So once again, the universe came with some very smart ideas for me. And I have, honestly, it was such a blessing. I mean, I wasn't asking for anything, and then I just landed in it. It's like fairy godmother somewhere. So it was for me quite beautiful. I've been very fortunate, very blessed, and also with the teachers that I've encountered that are also teaching from the studio under the Simply Yoga banner.
So what's all happening at Simply Yoga? Like, I mean, because there's lots going on. So tell us like what's going on and the other things that you do to keep you busy, because I know you don't just teach yoga. There are other things that keep you busy too.
The eternal student, hey?
Mm-hmm.
Always studying or learning something that's going to complement my toolbox. So I'm a yin qualified. I've been granted permission to teach yin. I did that with a wonderful teacher in Hout Bay, Carla Collins. And I've since then met another yin teacher who trained at the Source, and she teaches here on a Friday morning. So I do a Monday evening yin, and Vipka does a Friday morning. So we have yin. I've also done my restorative training. So very, very beautiful. Those restorative classes are by request, and I prefer to do one-on-ones, maybe two. Very different to yin and very nourishing, especially for somebody who's coming out of a long illness or trauma-induced yoga.
So can you explain the difference between kind of like yin yoga and restorative yoga? Like what is your difference between those two?
Yin is working very much on stretching the connected tissues, so long holds or floor base. There's only one standing posture in yin, and once you release out of the pose, 90 seconds minimum hold to about 8 minutes. When you come out of it, you have this blast of collagen and osteoblasts and this flooding of circulation to the areas that you've stressed. So it's a wonderful process of getting all those good osteoblasts to regenerate and the collagen to regenerate. Restorative is very prop-induced, it's a lot of props. What am I saying? It's prop intensive. So all the props in the world, and you would support the student. If you support the elbow, you would support the wrist. So if you support one joint, you'll support another joint. So it is very, and you also leave them in a pose for a long time. It's a lot quieter. It's, as I say, it's prop intensive. You would prop the student up, which whether they're on their back or on their side or laying forward on the belly or on their backs, the legs up. So that's a more intense class. It won't be as long as another class. It'll be an hour. And you may get through 3 or 4 postures with a long shavasana, restorative shavasana. So it's more geared for people that are needing to recover, or, as I say, have gone through some sort of trauma.
Beautiful. Thanks.
Beautiful, peaceful, nourishing, restorative practice. So that's yin and restorative. And then I've done my level 2 Reiki. I have a Reiki master that attends 2 of my classes here. So he's, now that I've finished my recent studies, he's asking me to do the master's Reiki, where you can actually do the attunements for Reiki practices. So he's working very hard on me to do that. So I do.
And Reiki. Do you foresee that you might be doing this in the foreseeable future?
Who knows? Reiki is a beautiful practice. I absolutely love it. Again, it goes hand in hand with my yoga, where I just love helping people or assisting or walking alongside people. And to see the effects of Reiki on them. It's the most beautiful energy healing modality. So I also collab with Johan van Grienen, who's a meditative practitioner. He's a wellness facilitator. He runs several retreats, and I got invited in 2019 to teach on a retreat with him, a silent retreat at Temenos. So that was in 2019, and I was fortunate enough to have taught with him every year. And again, this year's asked me to teach with him again in October at Temenos. And he's hosting a retreat in July, which I'm going to attend for myself with Anel Nordia, I think it is.
Mm-hmm.
So I do that. I've hosted my first retreat last year with another yoga teacher.
And you coming to our one in November, I hear.
I'm so excited. I've got 3 potential students who may want to join that one.
Oh, fantastic. Oh, lovely. So kind of like from yoga teacher and these things, like the retreat thing and Reiki master thing seems like that is what is taking hold of you at present. Oh, hold on. As my internet's unstable. Hold on, let me see.
See where it goes. I don't know.
Where it goes. Yeah. Sorry, my internet just conked out there for a moment. And so you were saying, so at the studio, you were saying, okay, so you've got the yoga classes, the restorative, the yin yoga, kind of like
yoga
retreats, the hatha yoga. You've got one-on-one Reiki that you do. Do you bring your Reiki into your classes a little with your students?
With the restorative only.
With the restorative. Okay.
Yeah.
And then you were saying you've got a reflexologist that comes or once a month?
Michelle Parker comes to the studio once a month for the weekend. She's here from Friday mid-morning till Monday afternoon. So she offers her reflexology, and it's just because the space is so quiet and tranquil, she just loves it. She used to use space at a physio practice, but she said it was just too busy for her, and they couldn't always offer her a treatment room. But there's something I've forgotten to share. I've trained as a children's yoga teacher as well. So I have Rainbow Warriors.
Okay. And are you teaching kids yoga?
On a Wednesday, I have my tween class, so from ages 11 to 13. And then I have littlies from 3 to 5. I go to a Montessori school in the Natita Wine Farm, and I teach there. And then I have a Thursday afternoon in studio, 3 to 8-year-olds.
Okay, cool. Now, I'm going to want to ask you more about this kids and teens yoga in a moment. So I'm going to say thank you for giving us such an update on like your passion and, all the things that you offer at your studio. And I'm really interested in the kids and teens because I've got stories of myself. So I'm going to pause for now, and then we'll get back to the next one.